The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
We are back from vacation. It is a new show. It's Monday. Great to see everybody. We often talk about marriage equality, and we say no matter how many of the more reasonable, moderate, or liberal states legalize marriage equality, there will be holdouts. What is really going to make a state like Alabama or Mississippi or the conservative Mormon stronghold of Utah ever allow marriage equality? However, as KSL is reporting, and this does come as very shocking news, Lewis, Utah's same-sex marriage ban has been overturned. This is just amazing. A federal judge a couple of days ago struck down Utah's voter-approved constitutional amendment, which defines marriage as a union between one man and one woman. We're familiar with this, finding that it violates civil rights due to process and it violates due process and equal protection as set forth in the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. You shocked about this, Lewis?
It is pretty shocking. I'm happy about it, of course, and I'm sure there are countless people in Utah that are completely losing their minds over this. But I am surprised I thought it would happen in all states. I didn't think it would happen in Utah this soon.
The Utah Attorney General's office put out a statement just hours after the ruling saying that it discussed with U.S. District Judge Robert Shelby, quote, a stay of his decision prohibiting Utah's definition of marriage as between a man and a woman, and Judge Shelby subsequently declined to stay his decision on the judge's own accord and would not entertain an oral motion to stay. As a result, the Attorney General's office is filing a written motion for the stay. It appears that that is not going too far, Lewis, and this I just think is fantastic. Utah is one of 33 states that enacted a constitutional ban on same-sex marriage. Back in 2004, 2/3 of Utah voters approved what was then called Amendment 3 and the traditional definition of marriage, which of course is a complete farce because the traditional definition of marriage, according to which part of which sacred text, if that's the barometer you're using, as we know, Lewis, polygamy in the Bible, threesomes in the Bible, also marriages to children in the Bible, all sorts of by the religious standard of traditional marriage, of wide variety of definitions.
Right, and if a ban like this actually is a violation of civil rights and constitutionally unsound, well, then you would assume that this would apply to every state that has the same type of ban.
You would think so, and hopefully enough momentum is building that we will be able to now start to use as precedent these decisions to say, ladies and gentlemen, please, are we not a civilized society, or are we in the camp of Duck Dynasty, which, believe me, I will be talking about later today. I have a lot to say about that. As we do close in on Christmas, Lewis, it is almost Christmas, and I will be doing absolutely nothing, as I have always done, because I was raised Jewish, and Christmas was always a very calm day, a nice thing, actually, compared to the frantic Christmas Eve shopping for gifts to participate in the buying culture and the entire thing. I won't be doing that, but there's an interesting article on Addicting Info, which originally appeared on Web2Cars by Lindsay Prosnitz, which asks, wouldn't Jesus hate Christmas, Lewis? And it goes through 7 different reasons why Jesus would not like Christmas. Number 1 is commercialization. Matthew 19:21 and other verses of the sacred text talk about how you can either love God or money, but you cannot possibly serve both. Christmas trees are actually a remnant of Germanic pagan traditions that couldn't be further from the Christmas faith. Jesus probably wouldn't really be too fond of Christmas trees. Not actually Jesus's birthday, right? The sentiment is nice, but December 25th was not the day Jesus was born. The date was chosen largely to align with a variety of pre-existing winter festivals. We've talked about some of those in the past. The Bible generally, Lewis, isn't really big on birthdays, even if December 25th was the day of Jesus's birth. the Bible is not big on birthdays. There are a few instances in the Bible where birthdays are even described, and they often lead to murder. For example, Matthew 14, 6 through 10 talks about King Herod's birthday, in which Herodias' daughter dances for Herod, which is very pleasing to him. He declares he will give her anything she wants, and she asks for John the Baptist's head on a platter. So birthdays, Lewis, not exactly the coolest, friendliest thing in the Bible, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, I think birthdays would probably just fit in with the whole Christmas theme of big spending and corporate nonsense.
Then we have paganism. If there's one thing God doesn't like, Lewis, it is worshiping false idols. Yet many modern Christmas traditions have pagan origins. For example, we've got the Christmas trees, as I talked about. We talked about celebrating Christmas on December 25th also stems from Roman pagan traditions, and that does not seem very Christ-like to me. And then, of course, we have Santa. Not only, Lewis, is his name an anagram for Satan, it is, in a sense, a false idol that, because of the commercialization of the holiday, I don't think it's crazy to say that there is a worship of Santa and the buying culture that it represents.
Right. If you were to take a poll of youngsters in this country and ask them what Christmas is actually about, and about Jesus and about Santa, I would be willing to bet that a lot of them don't even really know who Jesus is, but Santa, everyone knows who Santa is.
All right, and lastly, the seventh reason why Jesus might not be that big of a fan of Christmas. Jesus was Jewish, right? And even Reform and non-religious Jews face the December dilemma of saying, well, we don't celebrate Christmas, but at the same time, Jesus was Jewish, so what's going on here? So listen, Lewis, I think that there's a very good chance if Jesus were alive today, he would be no big fan of what Christmas is.
Oh, he would be appalled, David. Anyone with common sense would be able to realize that.
Let's talk about Duck Dynasty. Phil Robertson is one of the stars of this reality-type show on A&E called Duck Dynasty. He's been put on an indefinite suspension by the network following criticism of a number of anti-gay, criticism of gay people. I don't know how else to say it, as well as some racist remarks he made during an interview with GQ. Some of the things he said are, for example, referring to homosexuality as sin, equating it with bestiality, calling gay sex illogical. Here's a quote. "It seems to me a vagina as a man would be more desirable than a man's anus. That's just me. I'm just thinking there's more there. She's got more to offer. I mean, come on, dudes. You know what I'm saying? But hey, sin, it's not logical, my man. It's just not logical." And when asked, well, what exactly is sinful, Phil? He says, start with homosexual behavior and just morph out from there. Bestiality, sleeping around with this woman and that woman and that woman and these men. Then he paraphrases Corinthians, saying, don't be deceived. Neither the adulterers, the idolaters, the male prostitutes, the homosexual offenders, the greedy, the drunkards, the slanderers, the swindlers, they won't inherit the kingdom of God, Lewis. Don't deceive yourself. It's not right. Very offensive, clearly a bigot. And first and foremost, let's get this out of the way. If anyone is shocked, surprised, or appalled that a guy who's in a show that is basically premised on being a group of T-billies is anti-gay and racist, if that surprises you, I don't know. You're going to be surprised by a great many things in this life, Lewis.
Yeah, that I think most people would have assumed that someone like him would have these views just watching 5 minutes of the show. But whatever. Yes,
and 5 minutes was more than I was able to get through the one time I came across the show. So then we get into the First Amendment issue. His First Amendment rights are being violated. He has a right to free speech. No. How many times are we going to do this idiotic charade? The First Amendment is related to the government abridging, silencing, or limiting the speech of people. This is A&E, a for-profit company working in the supposed free market to make as much money as possible, deciding that Phil Robertson is bad for their checkbook and they're getting rid of him. Nobody prevented him from saying whatever he wanted to. He can continue to say whatever he wants to. He simply won't be collecting a paycheck from A&E because his bigoted nonsense was bad for business. Why can't people understand this simple thing about free speech, Lewis? It is concerning. It's disgusting.
I think it's one of those situations where if this were a liberal who got fired from MSNBC
Right.
for saying something,
Like, I don't know, Martin Bashir, who resigned, and Sarah Palin thought it was the right thing in that case.
right. It's all situational. It's one of their people. So people on the right are going nuts, saying it's a violation of the First Amendment. And if it were the other way around, it would probably be the opposite opinion.
And let me be absolutely clear. A&E is no big hero here. A&E decided to hire Phil Robertson because they thought it would be profitable, and they've decided to indefinitely suspend Phil Robertson because they worry that having him on will reduce profits. This is pure capitalism, Lewis. That is all this is. Nobody's First Amendment rights have been violated. A&E is no hero that we should be congratulating for anything. They're making business decisions. They're glad to have bigoted T-billies on their channel as long as they keep the bigotry low enough so they can still make money. And now it simply has become unpalatable to them. That's it. I'm not patting A&E on the back for anything they've done here.
No, not at all. Of course, it's a business decision, and this is all. Of course, this all just fits in the realm of crap TV that neither one of us really likes. But
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't blame them for making this decision. It is the right decision.
And there are conservatives, we'll get to some of their comments, saying that this is evidence that Christian values are being marginalized and discriminated against. Listen, if we look at the primary agent identities in the United States, being white is at the top of the list, being male is at the top of the list, but subsequent to those, being Christian is a primary agent identity in the United States. This is not about marginalizing or discriminating against Christian values. It is simply that your so-called Christian values do not work as an excuse or as a mitigator when it comes to flat-out bigotry, and for-profit businesses don't care. They want to protect their bottom line, and that's what A&E is doing here. Now let's talk about right-wing reaction to Phil Robertson's anti-gay rant, for which he has been suspended by A&E. His First Amendment rights have not been violated. Let's see what the right-wingers are saying. First, we have Brian Fisher. Brian Fisher says that Duck Dynasty star Phil Robertson is a, quote, American hero for his anti-gay anus remarks, also saying we need 150 million Phil Robertsons. Okay, that's Brian Fisher from the American Family Association. What about our friends over at Fair and Balanced Fox News? Here are some of the headlines. This is so funny. Headlines from Fox News about Duck Dynasty. Bill O'Reilly. What the Duck Dynasty controversy is really all about. One guess, it's connected to discrimination against Christians in this country, even though they are the vast majority. Here's another Fox News headline. Duck Dynasty outrage, a turning point for Christians. Lewis, the Christians just aren't going to take the persistent discrimination and marginalization anymore. This is it. Phil Robertson's suspension for being incredibly bigoted is really going to just make Christians come back and rebel against this discrimination. Then will A&E lose Duck Dynasty? That would really be the tragedy. And of course, Duck Dynasty debate. Who's really intolerant, Lewis? Here's a hint. It's those who want to see Phil Robertson fired because he is a Christian and simply expressing his Christian values. Quite a repertoire of coverage there.
Yeah, it's funny. When talking about First Amendment rights, a lot of people talk about free speech. But in cases like this, where someone slams homosexuals, all of a sudden it's about freedom of religion.
Right.
And that's even more like, whoa, you can't touch that. You know?
Of course. And then former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee says that Phil Robertson's views of gay people and black people are, quote, traditional values endemic to Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and also suggested during an appearance on Fox News Sunday that President Obama subscribes to the same beliefs as Phil Robertson. Man, Huckabee is really taking it up a notch.
Yeah, good for him. Well, he won't be running for president anymore, so I think he can say whatever he wants now.
All right, send me emails about this Phil Robertson thing. It is absolutely pathetic what is going on. Guy's a bigot. There's just no bigotry is becoming less and less profitable because of changing views in this country, and that is a good thing. On today's bonus show, we will talk about vacation stories. Lewis has some good vacation stories from last week. I have some good vacation stories from last week. How do you get the bonus show? You become a member, davidpakman.com/membership. However, Lewis, this is hugely exciting. The last membership special of 2013 is at davidpakman.com/2014 here. 2014 here. You get the membership, you get a zip-up hoodie, you get a bumper sticker, and you are entered into the giveaway, which we will do in early 2014, just after the new year. We will be giving away either an iPad or a Microsoft Surface. This is awesome. All members in good standing as of the last day of 2013 qualify. So sign up today, davidpakman.com/2014 here.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Our membership program is made possible in part by liberalbias.com. When reality just doesn't live up to right-wing ideals, there is only one explanation, ladies and gentlemen. Reality itself suffers from liberal bias. Find out more at liberalbias.com. Today's new member of the day is Scott Coletti. Scott, thank you for being a David Pakman Show member. Through the end of the year, this is it. This is the last membership special of the year. Go to davidpakman.com/2014 here. 2014 here. You get a 1-year membership, a zip-up hoodie, a bumper sticker, and you are entered in the iPad or Microsoft Surface giveaway. We don't know which it's going to be yet. Set to happen in early January 2014. It's time, ladies and gentlemen. It is time. Also, 2 more days left in the Stitcher nominations. This is what's going on, Lewis. Our program is on the Stitcher platform on iPhone and Android phones. Regardless of whether you have one of those phones, regardless of whether you even have heard of the Stitcher application, go to my website, davidpakman.com. On the right side, you'll see a banner that says, nominate us for the Stitcher Awards 2013. Click it. You can vote once a day. There's 2 days left to vote. And please nominate our program for Best Overall Show, Most Original Show, Best Interview, and News and Politics. If we can win any of these categories, it really would be very big for us. A lot of people have the Stitcher application, and we'd be featured prominently there if we are able to win. So please vote every day, davidpakman.com. Click on the Stitcher banner. Another thing that we did over the break, Lewis, we did a soft launch. I'm told by people who actually know what these terms mean that we did a soft launch of the Patreon platform for the David Pakman Show. So here's how this works. Most people are familiar with Indiegogo or with Kickstarter, and typically those are for one-time projects. For example, we did an Indiegogo campaign earlier in the year when we wanted to convert our entire broadcast to high definition. However, Patreon is a new platform that is similar to both Indiegogo and Kickstarter, except it's for ongoing projects, specifically for YouTube channels, which produce videos on an ongoing basis. So what we have asked people to do is to go to our Patreon homepage, which is patreon.com/David-Pakman, I believe, or /David Pakman. I should have this in front of me. I apologize that I don't. And what you can do is you can become a patron of ours. And the idea of this is to monetize and help support all of the YouTube videos that we do. Now, Lewis, I actually added this up. We typically do in a month between 160 and 200 YouTube videos. So if in your mind, each video is worth half a penny, pretty low bar, if each video we do is worth half a penny to you, throw us $1 on Patreon. It doesn't matter how much you can do. The point is to build community. Patreon is quickly doing this with a lot of different YouTube-based programs. So check it out. Go to our Patreon page. We will link to it in this YouTube video as well. and throw in $1 or any amount you want. We've got some awesome perks set up, including we'll be doing a conference type call where people who support us at a certain level will get on a conference call with us, a private call, ask us questions, whatever you want. Very cool stuff, Lewis. And we already, just the soft launch has already brought in 20 patrons. So it's a cool new thing people should check out.
I like it. I love this new idea.
Thank you, Lewis. Thank you for your approval. And Lewis is, to honor this Patreon platform, he has decided to grow a goatee during vacation. So that's pretty cool, Lewis. Is it working well for you?
So far, so good. Yeah, it's a successful project.
Thank you. The Ugandan parliament, this is horrible, has passed a controversial bill, traditionally known as the Kill the Gays bill, which outlaws homosexuality. It condemns members of the LGBT community to life in prison rather than death. They've gone liberal, Lewis. Rather than killing gay people, they're simply putting them in prison for life now. That's the idea. If you're caught engaging in what they describe as homosexual activity. Being gay was already illegal in Uganda, but the passage of the law makes the punishment far harsher, ratcheting up the repercussions. The latest version of the bill is now saying that life in prison will be offered as an alternative, as a kinder, gentler, more humane alternative to execution if you were caught being gay, participating in homosexual behavior. The bill also bans all advocacy on the behalf of gay rights and provides incentives for citizens to actually turn in people that you catch being gay. Ugandan lawmaker David Bahati, who introduced the bill, absolutely loving it. He says, quote, "I am glad the parliament has voted against evil because we are a God-fearing nation. We value life in a holistic way. It is because of those values that members of parliament pass this bill, regardless of what the outside world thinks." No matter what Bahati says about how this is a Ugandan-based bill, having no connection to the outside world, Christian evangelicals have been instrumental in crafting this law, including, of course, this guy Scott Lively here from the U.S. And this, Lewis, is something that right-wing evangelicals, many, not all, let me be clear, many would love to see happen here in the United States, the criminalization of homosexuality. For now, they have to get their rocks off helping out in Uganda.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of them probably just flock to where it's easiest to get this type of legislation passed. And it's incredible that this is one of the priorities of the government over there. I think they have bigger things to worry about.
The other incredible thing is that according to the Ugandan Daily Monitor, Ugandan jails are some of the most crowded in East Africa, and East African jails are some of the most crowded in the world. So that's right, Lewis. They're going to be putting an end to gay sex by putting all the gay dudes together in some of the most crowded prison conditions in the world. That's going to work. That's a great idea.
Makes perfect sense, David. It's some brilliant people over there.
We've talked now for several months and done probably a handful of stories about how McDonald's and other fast food giants and low-wage giants, including Walmart, kind of operate under the guise of being self-sufficient pictures, champions of true capitalism, self-sufficient. They don't need the government's help. They are just doing their own thing. Well, we now have even more information that supports what we've been saying for a while, which is if you consider the amount of government benefits that employees of these companies are entitled to because of the lack of wages and lack of benefits that they receive from the corporation, they're actually kind of heavily subsidized by the government. Listen to these numbers, Lewis. Huffington Post is reporting on this. McDonald's announced that it raked in $1.5 billion in profits in the third quarter of 2013. That is up 5% from last year. And remember that there is $1.2 billion in taxpayer money that goes every year to pay public assistance to the McDonald's workforce. So if in a year the public assistance is roughly equal to 1/4 of profit at McDonald's, that means that their actual profit is only 75% of what they claim it to be if you consider the amount of subsidy they receive from the government It's just amazing, Lewis, now that we're digging into these numbers, the reality of these low-wage giants.
Yeah. And I mean, this, of course, we're not including all of the potential tax dodging that they're doing through crafty legislation and all of those things as well.
The wages, by the way, are stunningly low. Frontline fast food workers make a median wage of $8.94 an hour, according to a recent Reuters report. Now, the statement that McDonald's gave to Huffington Post emphasizes workers get training, they get the opportunity for career advancement, and they also pay competitive wages based on local wage laws. Fast food workers work 24 hours a week on average, which at $8.94 an hour adds up to barely $11,000 a year. Could the answer here, Lewis, be that people should stop eating at these so-called food restaurants like McDonald's, and naturally, via the free market system that conservatives know and love, the situation will just kind of work itself out?
I'm not sure. Of course, no one should be eating at this place anyway for health reasons. It's sad, you know. Normally, I would say that a massive protest or strike would definitely get these people the wages they want, but they can't afford that risk, and it's very hard to organize on a scale like this.
Yeah, and there were some pretty significant protests just a few months ago, just down the road from the studio outside Wendy's. The Wendy's was almost completely shut down by protesters, and it was great to see people active, but that more is needed. It's not going to change anything significant, Lewis.
Yeah, unfortunately. I think we're going to be stuck in this situation for quite a while.
Let's take a break. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/David Pakman Show. A lot of great stories today. We'll also talk about some of the interesting voicemails that came in during our vacation and much more. Facebook.com/David Pakman Show. Back with you right after this.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
We've heard about the war on Christmas. We've heard about the war on religion and the marginalization of Christians and all of that stuff. But Lewis, is there a war on babies in America? Listen to this from the Bill O'Reilly Show.
Impact segment tonight, is there a war on babies in America? To begin this report, we start with the premise that all Americans must accept. When a woman undergoes an abortion, a baby will not be born. Simple fact. The leading abortion provider in the USA is Planned Parenthood, which would not provide information to us for this report. In a 4-year period ending in 2012, Planned Parenthood referred or provided 1,322,853 abortions, slightly less than half of all the abortions performed in the USA. That's according to their annual reports, which are public.
You must accept, Lewis, that if there is an abortion, a baby won't be born. You also must accept that if there is birth control, a baby won't be born. You also must accept that if you don't have sex, a baby won't be born. Isn't that evidence that there is a war on babies, Lewis?
I'm not sure. Perhaps if there is an army making sure that nobody's having sex, or that everyone's using birth control, or that everyone who gets pregnant has an abortion. But I'm not aware of that.
This Bill O'Reilly segment furthers the idea that there are people and groups that want abortions. I have never met, even when talking to the strongest choice supporters anywhere, I have still never met anyone who likes abortions and wants there to be more abortions. I just never have. This concept of people who are for abortions is absolutely disgusting and non-existent. I've just never come across it ever.
Yeah, it doesn't exist, but it's an effective way for opponents to make pro-choice people seem evil, right? I mean, that's the whole idea.
It is, of course. There's this group of people that wants to increase the number of abortions, whatever they can do. And Bill O'Reilly also talked about Planned Parenthood making money off of abortions and profiting from abortions. And we have to explore that because PolitiFact has explored this and other groups have explored this. making money from something. In other words, if abortion and related services show up somewhere as a revenue source, that is different from making a profit off of that. Planned Parenthood is a nonprofit. Abortions aren't free, so revenues are derived from all medical services. But to say that a profit is being made off of abortion, again, is part of this disgusting distraction and mischaracterization of what is going on. And Bill O'Reilly seems to have absolutely no hesitation at all from spewing this nonsense.
And you know what? He's a smart guy. I'm sure he knows the difference. But
Absolutely.
It sounds good, and his audience eats it right up. So why not?
We've talked a couple of times, Lewis, about when we were in elementary school and middle school and high school, the school lunches and how bizarre some of the stuff was. And Anthony sent this to me. It's via Fed Up, as well as the blog 22 Words. And we know about the obesity epidemic in the US and the childhood obesity epidemic. And we also know about some of the efforts to improve the quality and nutritional value of food that is served in school lunches. There's a bunch of pictures here of actual school lunches that kids have taken pictures of, and we'll go through them, Lewis. Here's just a couple, okay? This is disgusting stuff. This is called the Noodle Surprise. Then we have nachos, which look downright bizarre. This is called pizza. Now, I know you might think you know what pizza is, but if you saw this on your plate, you might actually not know what it is. We have, of course, pasta. Unclear what type of pasta it is or what kind of preparation this may be. Salisbury steak. Boy, do I have some Salisbury steak stories from elementary school, Lewis. And then this seems to be some type of a Hot Pocket type device. I don't know how else to describe it. So yeah, Lewis, school lunches are pretty rough right now. Now, my little sister who's in 4th grade, her school lunches really aren't bad. It may be the result of the school district, right? I know a lot of school districts, especially health-conscious ones in places like Massachusetts, have improved lunches significantly. But in much of the country, they've got stuff that looks worse than when we had, chicken patty on a bun in 4th grade, right? I mean, this stuff does not look good.
Yeah, looking back on it, our lunches were pretty bad, but these are by far worse. And I'm sure there are some schools in areas that have terrible funding where the lunches make these look good. You know,
what was like your favorite school lunch back when we would get school lunches?
Oh, that's tough. I really don't know.
I think for me, chicken nuggets was definitely high on the list. At the time, I didn't know about mechanically separated chicken and the whole thing. I wouldn't go near that today. But I think when you had chicken nuggets, that wasn't bad. I think it came with a ice cream scoop of mashed potatoes, lukewarm, except the middle has to be cold in the middle, but lukewarm on the outside. And then canned vegetables. Typically, you had waffle cut carrots. There were green beans and then pieces of corn that sometimes were a color other than yellow. That was not bad, actually.
That was top notch where we went to school. I mean, the chicken patty on a bun, I really didn't mind. I thought that was good. Looking back, I don't know why I ate that stuff.
Salisbury steak was a weird one. Nobody could identify it. It was never clear exactly what animal even. Forget about what part of the steak, what part of the cow it was. It wasn't even clear what animal it was. And that white sauce that it came in, indistinguishable, altogether indistinguishable. It was an incredible day, Lewis. Sometimes I tear up a little bit because it was such a good day when Drake's products came in and we no longer had to have breakfast pizza for lunch, Lewis, but could actually have ring dings, yodels, and snowballs. That was just an incredible day, wasn't it? As unhealthy as that garbage was.
Yeah, those were expensive, David. I mean, one package of snowballs was almost the same price as a whole school lunch.
That's right, it was. The price discrepancy was completely insane. Okay, so school lunches, this is a serious problem, right? I mean, we talk about people who go to McDonald's and how that is a huge problem, the amount of fast food consumption. If this is what you're getting in school, where are you even creating a point of reference to think that McDonald's is bad? Compared to this stuff, McDonald's probably tastes pretty good.
Oh, I'm sure it tastes better than what these kids are getting. These pictures are just unbelievable.
Write to me about school lunches, your favorites, your least favorites. If you have kids, what's going on with their school lunches? Because it's a scene, Lewis, that's for sure. We'll take a break. The membership special is on davidpakman.com/2014 here. We will be back with more stories and, of course, your voice.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Just before our vacation, we did the story about Megyn Kelly on Fox News talking about black Santa and white Santa and white Jesus and black Jesus and the whole thing. Now there's a teacher in New Mexico, in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, who is being disciplined because he made some racially charged remarks about a student's Santa Claus outfit. This is amazing. He questioned the African-American student's accuracy in wearing a Santa outfit because Santa, according to the teacher, is white. There's this high school freshman who wore a Santa hat and beard to school last week. His parents said that one of his teachers questioned why would he be wearing a Santa outfit? Santa is supposed to be white. The teen is black. The parents said that the incident has ruined Christmas altogether for their son. He no longer wants to decorate the tree, something he has always enjoyed doing. The parents said they're not happy with how the school has handled it. In fact, they didn't even hear from the school that this incident took place. They had to hear about it from another parent. It's just incredible. The teen's parents, of course, want him to be able to enjoy Christmas the way he used to and realize that the ethnicity of a made-up fictional character should not really be a subject for, should not be a catalyst for putting down black kids in school. This really makes me even more glad, Lewis, that I never celebrated Christmas growing up. I mean, it's just another way that now minority students can feel bad about themselves because, hey, the imaginary guy who brings the presents, you're black. He's not. You can't be him as a costume. I mean, it's just disgusting.
Can you imagine the mindset of the teacher where, some kid, a black kid walks into class wearing a Santa hat and a beard, and you just feel the need to bring up the fact that you think Santa was white? What is going on over there?
It's just bizarre. It really is. And again, is this assuming that we're completely wrong in our earlier segment indicating that Jesus probably wouldn't be a big fan of Santa and Christmas trees and the buying and all that stuff, buying gifts? Let's assume we were wrong about that and he were. Would he agree with discriminating against kids or making them feel bad about themselves based on their race in connection with this holiday? I think we could all imagine that that is not the case, and it is very, very, very disturbing. Let's talk about Canadian prostitution. This is an item that is very high on Lewis's list of personal interests. BuzzFeed reporting that prostitution restrictions have been removed by the Canadian Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of Canada struck down the country's anti-prostitution laws a few days ago, lifting the ban on brothels, street solicitation, and other restrictions. The court said that the law unconstitutionally violates the safety of prostitutes. So here's the deal in Canada. Prostitution is technically legal as a thing, right? But the government had put in place and enforced a number of restrictions on the sex industry, which practically made it very difficult. It was difficult to run a brothel. Public solicitation was illegal, among other things. And now Chief Justice Beverly McLaughlin wrote, Parliament has the power to regulate against nuisances, but not at the cost of public health, safety, and the lives of prostitutes. The prohibitions all heighten the risks, They do not merely impose conditions on how prostitutes operate. They go a critical step further, imposing dangerous conditions on prostitution. They prevent people engaged in a risky but legal activity from taking steps to protect themselves from the risk. There's going to be a year now before this goes into effect where the country can figure out, the parliament can figure out, well, what other restrictions do we want to put in place here? This actually makes a lot of sense to me, Lewis, because in great part, it's the lack of legality and the lack of regulation that create a lot of the unsafe conditions and challenges with prostitution. You can have an ethical, moral opinion of prostitution, the idea of selling sex, even though in many other ways, sex is bought and sold every single day, just a little bit less directly and openly than actual prostitution. But if two adults agree to have consensual sex with each other in exchange for money, it's not trafficking, which is a totally different crime that remains illegal regardless of the legality of prostitution, Lewis. And if you have restrictions on prostitution, you make it so that if there is a violent attack from somebody who is procuring prostitution services, that victim can't even go to the police because they are already engaged in something that is a crime. I think that this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of this. I think this should happen here as well. It is this is the way it is in many European countries, and it works. You know what? It's taxable. It's safe. You just need to have the regulation and the oversight. And you know, I have no moral objection to this.
I want to play some of your voicemails. 2192 David P is the number. Here's a voicemail about Rand Paul's Black People event where mostly white people showed up.
Hey, David. I just had a couple questions. I was watching one of your videos, and you brought up an interesting point. You were saying about the mostly white audience at Rand Paul's Black event.
Right.
You were saying how 90% of black people support Obama, and you congratulated that, saying it's a good thing.
Let's stop it right there. I never congratulated black people supporting Obama. I indicated that the policies of President Obama were so drastically more favorable towards minority groups than those of President Obama's two opponents, initially John McCain and then Mitt Romney, that it was logical to me that 90% of black people would vote for President Obama. So let's clarify that. I have a feeling the rest of the question is based on that false premise, though.
Democrats, whatever. But what I want to know is, why is it not racist blacks to vote for Obama, but it would be racist for 90% of whites? What's up with the little double standard of that? And second question, do you think ethnic politics is really what America should look forward to as we become more progressive?
Yeah, so I apologize. There seemed to be some kind of like a cell phone issue as he was leaving the message. I don't support voting for candidates based on their race and whether their race matches your race or doesn't. I've been very clear about that. When we've spoken about policy, it's very clear that the policies, broadly speaking, of Democrats are much more favorable to minority groups than those of Republicans. It has nothing to do with matching skin colors on your ballot at all. Here's one more voicemail. This is from our new top voicemail caller, Gordon. Let's listen. Always exciting, Lewis. Let's take a listen.
Good evening, David. Gordon here. I'm calling to say on the December 11 and 12 show, you looked under the weather. You looked as though you might be like with the flu or severe cold. If that's the case, I hope you feel better. And a lot of bed rest. I think maybe you'll run down for running around so much there in New York. And so get well soon. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you for the good wishes. I like how the voicemail starts speculative. You seemed kind of sick, but on the assumption that you are sick, you should get a lot of bed rest. And because you're sick, it's probably because you're running around in New York a lot. And because now we've already gone 3 steps, I might as well just say get well because clearly you're sick. So let me be clear, Lewis. I want to have clarity this evening. I was not run down. I am not running around too much in New York. I was not sick. I did not have the flu, nor a cold, but I appreciate Gordon's well wishes regardless.
it was probably just a bad hair day. That can be that can be really, really bad, and it can make Dave look very sick.
Today is a horrible hair day. It's actually raining outside, and I forgot to bring an umbrella. And I don't know what is happening with my hair right now, but it is like a hat. Today, it's like I'm wearing a hat, and it's disturbing, and it's probably disturbing to lots of young children. So I don't like that. By the way, on the bonus show today, speaking of vacation stories, I'm going to tell a really horrible story, and it involves me. And I just have 2 words to say, Lewis. White hair. White hair. Join us on the bonus show. Get the special. davidpakman.com/2014 here. Last special of the year.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.